Welcome to the Roofer's Den, everybody. I got George Easton with Ion8 in the house today. We're going to talk about how do you scale, how do you grow your business, not just from a marketing, from a brand standpoint or your product. We're going to wrap it all together and give you some tips for scaling your business today. Hey, George, what's going on, man?
Not too much. How are you, Patrick?
Good, man. Good, man. We were just kind of talking a little bit before we kind of went on here, and I really appreciate you coming on. I think that you've got an immense amount of knowledge. I don't just say that from a perspective of seeing what Ion8 is doing out there on the internet, but I've had the chance to personally work with you, myself, my business partner, Anthony, who trusts you immensely with the knowledge that you bring to the table. Can you tell me a little bit to kind of start with the listeners? What is Ion8? What are you guys doing? Can we just talk about just an overview, 50,000 of what your company is, sir?
Sure, it's my pleasure. First, thank you for having me on your podcast today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak about what we do and the value we bring to people. And so on that, in respect of your question, we are a full cycle business management consultancy who focuses on cloud enablement, essentially. That's really been our shtick for the last 10 years. And so I think it's fair to give you a little bit of background on us first. We started as a marketing, communications, and advertising firm approximately 10 years ago, and very quickly understood that you needed to have something more that to help companies with their systems, as well as to create your own differentiation, right? Because everybody's cousin's uncle's brother's nephew knows how to build a website for a case of beer and a pat on the back. On the other hand, though, the thing about it is that you can't tell whether that's any good or not, right? So immediately we understood that, in fact, just having a website or checking a box, while better than not having one, certainly isn't a real answer to helping you operationalize your business. So we immediately got involved in cloud technologies behind the idea of marketing and communications and so on. So the implementation of CRM tools, of dashboards, of reports, of other ancillary tools that help you to run the operations side of your business. Because if we can help you do that part, in other words, get your business ready to scale, then once we can all say it's ready to scale, then we can go in and add in all of that marketing or acquisitional activities, aware that we can take the efforts that we make on that marketing side and actually watch them as they go right through your business sales cycle all the way down to profit. Now, that's a significant differentiation. When you go talk to a Google Ads partner or an SEO shop or any of these other places, what they tend to do is they tell you that you need more leads to have more business.
Yep.
And at a lead level, right, Patrick, that kind of makes sense. It's a simple bit of math. Well, obviously, if I've got the phone ringing more often, I have a better chance of closing business. But on the other hand, how do you make those chances better? Like, how do you turn it from an art into a science? A science being something that is formulaic and repeatable, that you can begin to watch that hockey stick progression happen. The only way to understand that is to quantify things further. So, meaning acquisitional efforts that are visible on the other side in terms of your sales cycle, what deals or which acquisitional efforts are taking a more effort to close, which are closing with greater profitability, which are happier customers, as an example. All of these are things we care about. We all want to work less, right? But make more money.
Sure.
And really, that's the secret sauce, is that you kind of need that full view on things in order for you to really, truly understand what is or is not working and where the various different breakpoints or areas of optimization actually are.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because I think this is a mistake that I have personally made. I think a lot of companies out there do. And you started in the marketing realm, like you said, you started in just doing the marketing. Then you saw there was immense opportunity in helping customers and helping clients with their process as well. So maybe they kind of put the cart in front of the horse, getting those leads coming in, but not capitalizing fully on those leads because they don't have the processes, the CRMs, the stuff to back it up behind the scenes that's going to allow the business to fully grow to its maximum capability. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very correct. I mean, I think, and I'm no psychologist, so I would be a little off the mark if I was trying to quote you the number, but there's only a certain amount of relationships that we can all, maintain well in our head. I think that number is like 100 or something. And if you're like me from a big Irish family, then all of a sudden that number's in half because you can't get rid of the family members. So then what? Now you got 50 people left you can take care of in your business, and some of them work for you. Mm-hmm. So you kind of do need systems to be your best friend, to be there for you when you're not there, and to help you understand the things that you may not be able to understand while you're so busy doing the business that you're in, right? So yes. Whatever that may be, you want to stay being awesome at that thing that you do, and just be aware that your business is really enabled you to just do that. Your business systems, if they are functioning properly for you.
Yeah, I got a theory that I think people suck at almost everything, but if you can find something that someone is really good at within your company, then go all in on it. For instance, the example Anthony and I have talked about, if we can find somebody that answers phones really well, then just let them answer phones really well. That doesn't mean they have to do reports and they have to do sales and they have to do a bunch of other things because they're great at answering phones. I think it's very important to specialize in what you do. And I'd like you to dive into a little bit of that because you guys really do something that, in my opinion, in my conversations I've had with you just briefly, that I think is very unique. And I've read your reviews that you have online, and everybody seems to have this one theme. You get to know your companies. You get to know your clients, not just on a surface level of what they do, but what does the market look like for them? What does their competition look like? What is their company culture? It's not as simple. Let me bring you on. Okay, you guys sell a widget. Let me tell you how you can market that widget and get some inbound traffic. It goes a lot deeper for Ion8, doesn't it?
Sure it does, yeah. The way I sort of see our role when dealing with our clients and prospects, well, especially with our prospects, hopefully to come clients, is everybody comes to us with a particular want, whatever that want may be. How much for a website, how much for a CRM, and these wants that they're describing to us. Well, ostensibly, you can imagine they are in pursuit of whatever their business goal is, and naturally, it's easy to therefore understand that they're expecting that by addressing their want, they're in fact addressing their business goals. But the reality is, it's sort of like what I was saying earlier. If you sell hammers, if you own a hardware store and you sell hammers for a living, you want to be the best guy for helping the person walking in the store finding the right hammer for them. The awareness of all of the other stuff, that's distracting to what you do, right? So you tend to be an expert at one thing and kind of, like you say, suck at a bunch of other things. Mm-hmm. But your business needs someone with acumen to run those other things well. So you do things like talk to your local network, talk to your kids, talk to your buddies. You take up podcasts, you get ideas, but do you also find the time to granularly understand these things? Probably not. So what we find, and in these past 10 years, is that whatever the reason is that we get engaged with, websites, CRM, whatever it may be, the proponent we're talking to will often have a stream of consciousness sort of document, or at least a spiel that they're going to give me verbally about whatever their wants are. And my role is really to listen to their wants, but to truly discern their actual needs for them through obviously asking a bunch of questions and doing some discovery. And what we tend to find is that their wants and their needs are not well aligned, because the cone of uncertainty, or the amount that they don't know, is usually quite vast, because they know how to find the right hammer for the person, but don't understand how perhaps websites work, or the efficacy of a well-oiled CRM tool, or what really having a website means, or that, hey, not all websites are the same, you know, and so there's this need for some education and a need for breaking these wants down into their needs in terms of the prerequisites to even address their wants, as well as the post-requisites. So again, you know, websites, like other things, it's not field of dreams. You don't just build it and they will come. Once you've built it, you need to get them there, but you should, before you even get them there, figure out how you're going to measure if they should even be there in the first place, and whether you're asking the right people to come. So it is sort of one of these things that as soon as you start to talk to somebody about their wants, and you break down those needs, both in front with prerequisites and on the tail end, on the post requisites, we realize that the scope we're talking about inherently is a year, is 2 years. And as a result, yeah, we go long and deep with our clients.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to go back to the wants and the needs, because I think it's an incredible thing to distinguish when you're talking about how you build a company, which you guys, you know, fully manage and can help build and scale somebody's growth. But I want to, if it's okay, just kind of just going back to when somebody comes to you, you know, one of the problems that we've had within our company is establishing I'm going to call it a vision. Okay. It's easy to say, okay, we want to be a successful company. If we've got a roofing contractor out there, we want to do $10 million a year, or we want to put on a lot of roofs, or we want to be well known online or have a good reputation. I think that too often, and I've fallen victim to this, and I continue to, probably even today, and hopefully with your help, I'll be able to move past this in time. But I come up with these generalized terms. These, like, you know, I want to be good. I want to be successful. I want my company to be well known. I want to get inbound traffic, without, like you say, coming up with a measurable goal, something that is quantifiable to say, okay, Patrick, this is how we're going to make that happen. Let's put the processes and plan in place to develop your business around your goals, your brand, your marketing, your CRMs, your processes, your product, your people, to make that happen. And I was hoping that you could tell me a little bit about how you move somebody from such generalized stuff like me into this narrow, focused, well-oiled machine that gets them done, like you guys have been able to do for countless clients of yours.
Yeah, the process is often the same. Although the outcomes are always different. Per every company has its own sets of goals and its own nuances and so on, markets, etc. So we are a generalist. I mean, don't get me wrong. We certainly have certain verticals that we do play well or more frequently in, it seems. But we kind of approach everything in that same way. I mean, I guess I was a stubborn child, because I'm of a challenge everything kind of mentality, right? So what I am listening to most frequently when people are describing their wants is the hallmarks of assumption. And there are many, many assumptions that are made. The most frequent one, and it is somewhat laughable, is that field of dreams analogy. So many people just think, well, my son tells me I need a website, so I guess if I get a website, then I'll be all good and all of my dreams for my business will come true. And that therefore all websites are the same. So it's sort of that, I mean, and that's the other thing too, is that people come and they say things like, how much for a website? And I say,
Sure.
How much for a house? At which point they then go, oh yeah, right. I guess I kind of need to say how much for a house that is a bungalow with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, you know, etc. Precisely. What's the architecture of the website? What's the intention of the website? What are the goals of the website? How is it going to be used? Is it used only for acquisition? Is it used for ongoing accounts? Is it also used as a tool for your employees, What are the potentialities of your website? And most of the time they're like, I didn't even know you could do that. I had no idea it could be used as an internal tool as well as an acquisitional tool. Wow. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't want to interrupt, but you don't know this about me, but I don't really talk about it very often. It was a tough time for me. In my mid-20s, I started one of my first companies and it failed royally. And I invested $50,000 into a website. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to a company in downtown Orlando and they happily took my money to develop a cool looking website because I wanted to have the best colors and, I wanted to have I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted it to look good. And I figured, like you said, it makes sense to me. The field of dreams theory. I thought if I built this great looking website, if I threw it up onto like a Facebook and a couple business cards that I give out, that all of a sudden I was doing enough for people to come and frequent my business. It was called your3bids.com, you're the number 3 bids.com. And the idea behind it was that, people who need to get bids for projects usually have to get 3 bids. So they would come to me and I would go ahead and get those bids for them. And then I would take a percentage of whatever the winning bid was. And no one used it. And I thought it was a great idea. I had a great thought in place. And I went and invested a lot of money into a website that might as well have just been a rock because it did absolutely nothing for me. I didn't think through, what is this website going to do for me? What am I going to do once I have it? I never thought about those questions. And I think a lot of business owners don't, but it took me failing royally to get that through my tough head.
Well, failure is something that we should embrace constantly and encourage. I mean, it's the only way to learn, but there are some safer ways to fail. So when you have an inclination that, the idea that you just came up with while washing your hair this morning in the shower is going to make or break and change the world, rather than go throw $50,000 of hot cash at that right now, why don't we take, say, $1,500 and build out a cheapo beepo landing page that sort of talks about your value adds, and then let's go run some Google ads and let's see what our market traction is like. So it's always, again, I come back to everything in the cloud is measurable, right? So if it's measurable, then it can be treated like a science experiment rather than an art. Art is this subjective thing. Here, I've painted this thing. How much will you pay for this, Patrick? I don't know, $10. Oh, it's worth $1 million. Well, see, in the science world, we don't have to worry about what other people think. We just know. So we take businesses from feeling to knowing. Everything can be done at a knowing level. And so when you're about ready to pursue this great idea that you have that's going to change the world, there are a lot of inexpensive ways to test your theory. And by the way, if your first test fails miserably, that doesn't mean the idea is bad or that you should stop. It just means maybe you need to pivot the testing some more. So being rigorous and being aware that all of the greatest inventors in the world didn't just wait. Nikola Tesla didn't sit there and go, and now this great idea, and now that great idea. He smashed his head against the wall for a long time, passionately, because he knew something was there about each and every one of his many, many, many world inventions. Same thing. If you know you can change the world, but it's just not hitting the mark right away, time to articulate and continue your experimentation. Once you've exhausted all of your experimentation and the world is still not giving you back what you thought, well, then maybe it's in fact because there's nothing there. But it is about that whole, it's like a crawl, walk, run methodology, right? How do I prove that I should go to my wife and say, babe, I'm going to drop $100K onto this deal, right? Without her thinking you're nuts. At least then you can say, listen, I ran these tests and I got all these leads. I had to contact them and say, listen, the business isn't up and running right now. Thank you very much. But nonetheless, you were able to prove that it worked. So
true. And, one thing that I did, the mistake that I made is I put it up there and of course no one came and it was a failure. But I think now as we travel around and we work with different contractors across the country, one of the things that Ion8 is great at is I heard you say this, George, and I'm not quoting you here, but numbers don't have feelings. Where what's measurable doesn't have a feeling to it. It's what the market bears. And I see contractors and I see business owners get attached to things that they don't need to get attached to. Maybe they make it as part of their identity, as part of their marketing plan. They believe that, this is the way it's always been done, so we've got to do it this way. An example in our industry is door-to-door knocking. Since the dawn of time, it seems like in roofing, everyone has done door-to-door knocking, and it's been a very slow industry to turn over into the digital world. I was talking with a gentleman yesterday who was saying, we're just behind the times in the contractor industry, maybe because it's more of a blue collar thing. They haven't got behind the digital marketing. They haven't gone behind the CRMs. They haven't begun to look at the businesses in the way that many others have in the last 10 years. And I think that's a challenge that we face in our industry as we work with a great company like yours and we move forward, is also lifting up the rest of the industry to move forward with us. Because there can be that tendency for everyone to keep on doing what they've always done. And I want to see the industry itself step up a level and do better when it comes to how we use technology to get our point across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I would also say that, of course, the rate at which technology changes is, it used to be like this and now it looks like this. And that has some advantages, particularly to those who are, let's use polite terms and say not so technologically advanced or interested or comfortable. We are though becoming ever more comfortable with user interfaces that are common. So at this juncture, basically the world is split into two camps on several occasions, right? Like, so you're either Android or iOS. You're either Mac or Windows or Google Chrome. In some cases there are more choices, but we're starting to see whether people are aware of it or not, they're becoming acclimatized to the way things work. Like, for instance, social media feeds. We all now understand kind of what those are. We understand what walls and commenting and replying and that kind of conversation, looks like. And as a result, now familiarity has gone up. So when we, as in you and I, for instance, strategizing on building tools for an industry that is not well known to be technologically savvy in roofing, right, we at least do understand that every roofer these days is accustomed to a smartphone, right? Whether it be iOS or Android. So solutions now, unlike say 5 or 10 years ago, have a much more solid understanding of a baseline understanding of how everybody sees user interfaces, because we're all accustomed to the Facebooks and the Instagrams and really the simplicity of an iOS device as an example. So that means that as long as we create solutions that are equally as obvious, so you met with somebody, they said yes to your thing, hit the big blue button, we can make it so that it is as easy to adopt and familiar as, say, an iPhone is. One of the best parts about iPhone technology, as an example, and I gather it's about everybody has it in the same way. So Android devices are a little different, where my Android is highly customized for my needs versus, say, your Android. And if my kids were to pick up your Android phone and my Android phone, while they might be able to navigate the two of them, we can understand how you'd be on a Samsung and I might be on a Chrome device. But the larger swath of the world is on an iOS device. And the advantage to that is that, hey, if I'm stuck with my phone, I can go to any one of the 10 people that are standing around me and go, does anybody know how to do this? And everyone in the room goes, yep, I do.
Yep.
Right? And so that makes things a lot easier for us now. And so technology is only getting ever more accessible. And that's the exciting part. So no longer is it something for a white collar or it's an elitist thing. It's becoming ever more democratized, ever more easy to use, despite the fact that actually complexity of the applications is going up. So while the So while it feels easier to use, it's doing more for you.
Yep.
Pretty
You know what?
awesome.
I recently made a big mistake. I'm going to tell you about it. We've been running obviously Facebook, Instagram ads. You know, I do some videos and stuff online, and we do the podcast, and we try to optimize just our, trying to get our name out there. But I recently was running some Facebook ads. Okay. And when I was doing that, we put a link basically to a form for the individual to fill out. And we were finding that people were clicking on the form, getting to the form, but it had a number of questions on there and they weren't filling it out. And because of that, we're sitting there going, okay, we're drawing in the interest, but now I'm not capitalizing. Like you said, I've done the first part, but I'm not capitalizing the leads that I've got. And, I was telling my team, God's honest, 2 days ago, what I sat there and told two people, I said, we're failing. And it's a tough feeling that people have when you go, okay, we're out there, we're generating that business, we're failing, man. You can't give yourself any other grade. And so we made some adjustments. And, the adjustment I made, George, was I said, okay, we've got to make it easier for them to interact. So instead of a form, get rid of that. Let's have them be able to direct message me, come up with some questions that, some preface questions they can just click on, make it a 2-click process if they want, and then we can get back out to them. Since that time, we've generated 3 good leads from that instead of having them fill out the form, which I thought was a good idea. But sometimes you just got to make those adjustments out there to get what you need. But like I said, I think some people just get so attached, and their feelings get involved with it. And that's one thing I love about you is that you really break down somebody's business more than just from the marketing side. It is a full integration into what we're going to do to maximize your potential in the industry. And I think that makes you much different than the countless other individuals. And I'm so happy you corrected me on this because I made a mistake. I sent you an email and we were talking a lot about branding and marketing, but that's not everything that you do. It's a portion. It's a small part. There's enough people out there that will take your money. Go to any Google search and put, digital marketing in. There's everybody and their brother will take your money to try to, run Facebook ads for you. But if you want to run those ads and you want to optimize your business, you got to have more behind it than just, a great video, a picture, and a catchy saying.
And speaking of catchy sayings, I'll drop one that is a bit vulgar here that we say all the time, and it's meant to be jarring on purpose. In fact, because I think part of the way in which we're successful for our clients is by helping them break through mentally into new places, right? Mm-hmm. So often, particularly with partnerships and single shareholder corporations, the dollars you're letting go of, they're yours. They're not my department's. And the decisions, all the good things about the company you made. Probably though, all the bad things about the company you made, right? And so we find that particularly at partnerships and single shareholder levels, there's always an egoic attachment to the company name, to the website, to so on. So there's a few things that we say here that I'll just drop for you right now. The first one is, if you can't measure it, you're masturbating. Let that sink in for a second. And I don't mean, the way in which we all know what masturbating is. I really just mean like you're doing things like, I need a website. You have a website, but you have no idea at all about its analytics or what happens when people fill in forms or anything. You're like, oh God, I got a website. Feels so good. I have a website. Now I don't know, the world is going to be my oyster. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other one is that what you like and what I like doesn't matter at all.
I love that, man. I love that one.
The only thing that matters is what works. But how do you know what works if you can't measure it? Right? So there's an agency, a government agency in Canada. By the way, I should point out I am Canadian. There is a government agency in Canada that gives money to small businesses, and they have a questionnaire that they make the business owner fill in that is meant to help the business owner when speaking to a web developer about what they want or need. And I shit you not, one of the questions on the questionnaire is, what's your favorite color? Who cares? Who cares what your favorite color is? In the end, the question I pose to all of these things, to our single shareholder or partnership, or sole proprietorship businesses is, do you care more that a representation of your likes and ego is online, or do you care more that your business is successful and able to feed all of your employees? Of course, it's a question you can't say the other two. You can't answer it. No, my ego is more important. But it really does. It helps to deflate this idea, because what happens when people come to things with an ego married to it is that no matter what, they don't want to lose that. They've hung their hat on this. This is part of their identity and so on. But once you help them realize how they can't tell you that it actually serves anybody except for it makes them personally feel good, they suddenly become aware now. As many people are not aware of when their ego is actually messing things up. By the way, most things that we do wrong are all ego driven. I'm sure we can agree to that, right? Absolutely. And this is one of those big mistakes that small, medium-sized enterprises make is the unawareness of their egoic attachment to their own business. Did you come up with your tagline? Did you brand your company? Did you pick the colors? You probably did. Everybody kind of does, because in the beginning, before the business is really running, well, who's going to do it but you? Okay, fair enough. Right? But eventually, it takes this ability, it requires you to sort of go, okay, I got to take a few steps back here and figure out what about my business is or isn't working. And often we are too close to that, to our baby, right? Here's another thing that we say a lot, which tends to get people laughing a little bit, but do you remember the Seinfeld show when Elaine and Jerry go and they check out the baby and they're like, oh God. And then they're like, that's the ugliest baby I've ever seen. And the whole episode is about the ugly baby and how they're all putting on, they're like, oh, yeah, it's so cute. Well, it's sort of the same thing, right? Nobody ever has a baby and then goes, oh my God, you're so ugly. You just don't. You don't look at your child that way. And so your business is your baby. You never look at your business and go, God, you're ugly. How the heck did you come out of me? But that's really the exercise that is required when we first flash at them like, hey, it isn't about what you like. It never should be about what you like. It should only be about what works. They immediately agree to that. And then we then say, so how do you know what any part of your business works? Where are you measuring things? And often we get, well, when the cash register rings. Okay, fair enough. But what about all the way along? Wouldn't you like the cash register to ring more? And how do you know why the cash register is ringing? And as you ask these questions, people start to lose an understanding as to why. They just know that it does.
Yep. A good example for me on that one is I'm so happy that we're working with you to help me with this, because I think that countless, I'm going to give you an example of what you're talking about. Some people say when the cash register rings. I look at, when somebody calls into my claims care and they want to use my product. Okay, Patrick, but you had 4,000 people look at that ad, or in the example with the cash register, you had 4,000 people walk into the store. How many of those 4,000 people walked up to the line and actually got that cash register used? In my case, how many of those 4,000 people that we saw or that saw me or saw my claims care decided that this was advantageous enough for them to reach out and make something happen with a phone call or with a message? And, the way that Ion8 has been able to do this, and just my short time of working with you and talking with my business partner, Anthony, is I want to talk about, competition in the industry, because you guys don't just look at, okay, well, let's see what you're doing. Let's see what's going on with you, or let's see what's going on in your store with those who's making the cash register. You guys also take time to look at the store next door to that one, or the ads running next to my claims care, what those people are interacting with. it's not just about your company. It's about what else is going on in the world. You can't get so egocentric that you only look at yourself. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. You have to know, where you are in your market space, right? You got to, because especially if we're to help you accelerate to meet your goals, we need to know all about your market space, because like just a random example, right? SEO. SEO is a hot button topic that everybody has an interest in. Few have a solid understanding on, and the key component about that many people seem to miss is that it's sort of like a live marketplace, right? As you create more content around your keyword phraseology in your content, you're going to start to push yourself up in contextual relationship to everybody else, and therefore push everybody else down. But you're not the only one doing stuff. So other people do stuff too, and as they do that, everything is constantly in a state of sort of fluid motion. And what we tend to find is people, think they understand their market the first pass. They make some decisions about what they're going to do, and then they don't check back in. How am I doing? Where has my market shifted? And so on. They just sort of go, okay, blinders on. We did that SEO thing in 2018. And so that's all we need to do. And that tends to be the issue. So again, I'll throw a Canadianism at you. When we first engage with people and we're going through the detailed discovery, and we're talking about, they come to us about a website or a CRM, and suddenly we're talking to them about, their HR and their recruitment strategy and all these other things to really get a sense of scale and where they think they're going and all that fun stuff. We kind of understand, I'd say, a fair amount of their assumptions, and we have to sort of, what would you say, push and challenge back these assumptions, but then to really be able to report back to them with what I like to call the "where in the lake is my canoe?" Meaning, if the whole idea is that you're sort of floating about unaware of where you are, how far away from shore are you actually, right? Shore being in this analogy, your goal, right? Some people think, oh, I'm right here. I'm right beside my goal. All I need you is to just fit. And then we make them aware of, actually, you're dead center in the lake right now, bud. You got quite a long way to go. We're obviously going to, make that a manageable thing and be your Sherpa to the shore, if you say that. Now I'm mixing mountain and lake analogies.
I love that one. Sherpa to the shore. Yeah, I like that.
but that's the point, is that, the amount of assumptions. The other exercise that's always good is every time you want to make a decision about your business, take a pen and paper and write down all of the assumptions that is based upon. Okay. And then turn to someone else in your business and say, this is what I want to do. These are what I believe my assumptions are. Do you think that I'm missing anything? Because, we all have our view, and this is the lens that I'm looking for, but you're standing over here, Patrick, and you've got this lens. So the more lenses, the better, but you'll uncover a shitload of assumptions. And this is where we get into dangerous territories, where we can blow $50,000 on a website and realize it's going to go fat egg on us.
Yeah.
Always test your assumptions. The more that you are aware of your assumptions, the better off you're going to be. The more present you are with your business.
I'm trying to think of in my personal life. That's a great exercise. Just take a look at what my assumptions are. I'm just thinking about that when it comes to personal relationships or choices that you make in life. Another thing that you don't even know this, but I used another saying of yours, just the other day, I was in a negotiation with an employee for, we were talking about the new year and salaries and commissions, and everybody, as you go into a new year, they kind of want to know, kind of where they stand and where things are going. And I got this from you, but wants versus needs. And I was talking with that employee, and I kind of left the conversation. I said, I need you to think about, what do you need versus what do you want? And I think it's such a great thing to think about, because in life, you do have both. You may want $500,000 a year, but what do you need? And I think that puts people in a position of thinking about things logically and starting to take a step back out of themselves and go, okay, let me take, I know what I want to do here. It's always a negotiation of what I want, but let me take a step back. Let me look at what are my actual needs here and then build off of that. It's a completely different way of looking at it. So I kind of owe you a thank you, which you haven't got a chance to do now, because it helped me with my negotiation, not with branding or the company, but maybe with the company, because it was a negotiation with an employee. And I wouldn't have had that tool if it wasn't for Ion8 and the help you guys have been able to give us. And while something's small, those small decisions like that, as you know, when it comes to salary and commissions, can cost a company thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of a year if not done correctly, if not negotiated the right way. And so I owe you a thank you for that, because what you say right there, whether it be not going by assumptions or need versus wants or understanding your market, being able to make adjustments when the market changes, these are things that can make an impact on a business immediately.
Oh, definitely. The needs wants exercise.
I love it.
It permeates our culture when dealing with our clients, because, a lot of our clients get to a point where they're like, okay, so I guess we got to spend some money on that. And I said, well, hey, listen, I'm all for spending your money, but we're only going to spend your money when we're able to translate your wants into needs. Because the list of wants, again, it's an egoic thing. Wants will be forever. That's an ad nauseum kind of a list. But when we can finally say, okay, the pieces of the strategy are in place, that want is now translated into a need. We need this now. Now's the time to spend money, not preemptively because you believe, you should have that now because you're going to grow into it. No. That's ridiculous. But I think I'm really glad, and thank you. First of all, I appreciate you bringing that up. It is one of those things that, to be honest with you, I have not done for the past 10 years. The idea at the level of talking to employees. I've always done it at the level of, even in my personal life, like my kids like, Dad, I want to have an Xbox. I'm like, well, you don't need an Xbox. But anyway, but when it comes to employees, one of my biggest pieces of advice to everybody is protect your culture, grow your culture. Your culture is the glue that binds everything together. And so for us at Ion8, yes, of course, we're always looking for, your technical capacities and other things like that on your resume. But once we start to interview you, if we discern that you are, in fact, a cultural fit for us, the question that I put to everybody before they, when it is the money talk, is I simply say to them this: in order for you to be successful here, I want you to be present here at all times, which means I don't want you to be living in past narratives, pain of the past, nor do I want you to be living in future projections of some sort of redeeming future. I want you to be present. When you are present, you're going to deliver to us as an organization and the clients that we work for the best version of yourself. But more to the point, you're going to deliver for yourself the best version of yourself. So how to keep you present is, my job is to create the opportunity for you to live structurally without stress. So I say to them, listen, what are your needs? And they go, what do you mean my needs? And I said, well, I don't want you sitting here thinking about your student debt. Now, I'm not going to wipe your student debt out just because you got here, but I want you to think about what are all of the things that you must cover that would otherwise knock you into a past narrative or a future projection. Talk to me about those things, and let's understand each other's needs. If I can meet your needs, then we've got something to work with. If I can't meet your needs honestly, then I'm going to really wish you well and send you off in the right direction. Because if I can't meet your needs, what's the point in jamming it together so that you can be here under stress and not be the best version of yourself in the first place?
So let me ask you this, George, to kind of finish it up with. If you've got somebody out there, we know we work with some large roofing contractors, other contractors, people in the industry. They're ready to be present. They're ready to scale their business. They're ready to be aware of the market and the industry, and they want to work with Ion8. How does that process work? Would they give you a call? Do they go to the website? How does somebody say, you know what, man, I've listened to this for an hour. This is a man that I want to be involved with, a company that can help me grow. How do they get involved with Ion8?
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity for a plug, Patrick. So you can go to ion8.net at ION, the number 8.net, and just check us out there. And certainly you can fill in a web to lead form if you'd like, or if like Patrick says, absolutely, chat is also available as well if you prefer to just ping us. In fact, it's me who mans the chat, so you'll probably get me directly if you do so. And then, what happens next is we sort of hop onto a call for about an hour, get to know one another, and arguably, date before we get married, because we are a long and deep company. We don't always fit for everybody, and nor does everybody fit for us, and that's okay. Just as it is okay for everyone else's business. You don't need to be the everything to everybody. You need to be you need to be the someone for someone.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you back on, if you will, maybe in 6 months. And the reason for that is I'd love to kind of dive into my claims care a little bit more. Maybe we'll have some time to work together then and talk about some of the trials and tribulations within our own company. I want to be transparent about things like that because we're a growing company, and we have experts like you that we work with. And I know personally, I'm happy to have you in our corner because of just the immense amount of knowledge and understanding you have when it comes to scaling and growing the business. For my roofing contractors and my claims care clients, please go to Ion8, visit the website, talk to George. So many of you ask us about digital marketing or growing your business or all the ABCs of it all. As you can see, it is not as simple as going and just buying a house. All right. You've got to know what kind of house. You've got to know what kind of market is around that house. What are the other houses selling for around there? There is so much more that goes into it, and you need an expert in your corner if you want to compete in today's market. That is George. That is Ion8. Make it happen. Okay. George, I appreciate you coming on with me today, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, bud. I really appreciate it as well. Thank you very much.
All right.
I'll talk soon.
Cheers to you. Bye-bye now.
Later, bud.